3D platformers have a wide variety of mascots that have attempted to seize the market. This was especially present in the late 90s with iconic characters like Crash Bandicoot, Banjo-Kazooie, but there was a series of games that started this trend and are still popular to this day, and that is 3D Mario. Now, we haven't had one of these bad boys in almost 7 years, unless you count Bowser's Fury, but that's debatable. If you are new here, welcome! This is going to be a new series where I review every 3D Mario game that has been released in the current time of this recording, unless this video somehow gets delayed after like a new game is revealed, which would take a long time. Before we start the Mario 64 review, I want to go back in time before the N64 was revealed and see how gaming was at the time for the Mario series. The Mario series was in a glorified state at the time, putting out 2D games that have revolutionized gaming like Super Mario World and Donkey Kong Country for a different series. But there was also competing with and failing at some points to a completely new challenger. Most know him as the Blue Blur Sonic the Hedgehog. Sega at the time were at their strongest, pumping out so many classic titles to the point that they have won the title of being Nintendo's first rival company. It actually hurt Nintendo a bit financially as the Virtual Boy release in 1995 had just plummeted in the market, while Sega's hit titles on the Mega Drive, also called Genesis in the US, gave them a boost in sales. Sonic 2, Streets of Rage, Earthworm Jim, and many more showed off their high quality performance in 16-bit. Making them a famous company in the US and started to grow a cultural fanbase. However, this all changed in 1996. The N64 rapidly gained attention, and it was shown in an E3 conference in the same year to start. But what quickly set Nintendo back on the map was a game that was known to be the first 3D title. This was soon to be a revolutionary game in video game history, known as Super Mario 64. The plot is similar to the past 2D games. Peach invites Mario to her castle for a special cake made just for him, so Mario goes on his way to the castle for that, until he finds out no one's around until Bowser's menacing voice is heard, saying that he has kidnapped Peach. Again. Wow, Mario can't catch a break, huh? But back to the beginning, I want to talk a little more in depth about the open garden at the start. It's the first area you come across when starting a new file in the game. As Lakitu flies around the castle outside, showing how vast and open it is, sort of like a way of telling you how impressive a 3D game can be. Yeah, take that, Sega. Speaking of which, Lakitu is the one who holds the camera for this game. I don't know why they chose him and not a Toad, but who cares. As you start to head to Peach's castle, Lakitu gives you a brief instruction on how to control Mario through the several maps in this game. Specifically the A button to jump, the B button to attack, along with explaining the camera options, which we will come back to later. As you know, this game was heavily praised for its controls, which is one of this game's biggest strengths. This was added onto the revolutionary aspect of this game, as it feels so good to control Mario. Now granted, there have been many games after this that have tried to improve on these controls, hell even some future Mario games, but I don't think they have the same level of impact this game had. I mean, it was the first 3D game for Nintendo's big console at the time. Judging by what Miyamoto has said in some interviews showcasing Mario 64, his main focus was on perfecting the controls of the game, making them as smooth as possible for new players, and in the end, he got his wish. It's crazy to me how a game that came out in 1996 has controls that have aged tremendously over countless of AAA games that don't respond to controls half the time. However, they're not perfect, as the controls can be slippery, especially in later levels. This is just coming from a more personal opinion, but I've definitely had issues with the controls, as Mario can feel like really stiff at times. To greater this, the developers gave a whole range of moves for Mario to perform. Most of these would be used in later games in the series. These moves would include the long jump, the somersault, he can now attack with his fist, he can now wall jump, backflip, and crawl on the ground slowly. I don't know why that's there, but I guess it's cool for Nintendo. All of these moves would help benefit the player, giving Mario a ton of moves for the player to master would make the gameplay more dynamic. Let's talk about the levels in this game. There are a total of 16 levels, each of which have their own stars and unique environments. You are free to do anything you like to do in these areas, giving you access to collect any star without specific order. This was definitely a game changer for the platforming genre, as every game before 64 has levels from point A to point B, since they were all just 2D. But here, you can choose any point you like to go. Just seeing the basic Mario elements from power-ups to stars and enemies, all now in a 3D environment, was definitely a milestone for many. The first level you encounter is Bob-omb Battlefield, which shows you what this game is all about. Jumping, wall kicking, running around and so on. It's a lot smaller than the later worlds. This shows that this level sort of plays as a testing ground for the player to experiment with stars around that can easily be accessed. What I really admire is how well designed the worlds are, most times. They each have several paths you can take to where you need to go. Let's say for example, I'm trying to get a star on top of Whomp's fortress. Here, you are able to take a wide range of directions. Right where you start, you can use an owl who secretly hides in the tree to fly you upwards. You could take the long route at the bottom, avoiding obstacles, or take the cannon on the right to fly at the flagpole, thus making it easier to get to the top. Super Mario 64 has a great way of showcasing players how free they can be. Having a range of paths to just one star is a good way of establishing what a 3D platformer is capable of. Not every level is like this, however. Some would like to focus on more on gimmicks rather than gameplay. The infuriating tiny huge island switches from tiny areas to huge. Jolly Roger Bay and Dai Dai Docks are 90% swimming based. Some areas have tight angles and precise platforming that are hard to overcome at first. I'm not saying these are bad or anything, I just think it doesn't really help the goals the game wanted to bring in my opinion. With things like these, you would need to have a good camera to make it comfortable with different situations, but sadly this is the game's biggest problem. The camera is limited, preventing you from doing a full 360. It's probably because the camera for the N64 controller are buttons rather than your usual analog stick. Like, who came up with this stupid controller? The camera is locked at certain angles to where you'll most likely see the side of Mario to where you're going. Sometimes it can benefit the player, while other times it makes the experience much more challenging in an unfair state. Now we head to the boss fights. Most of these are relatively easy, but they also play a part on one of the weakest aspects of this game. Most of the bosses just walk around with one or two minor moves, which, granted, it was a first platformer to many, so the excuse is there, but actual boss battles, they aren't really good. Mainly repeating the same attack over and over again, which doesn't last long. Also, this game's physics are weird. This is similar to a point I made earlier on, but happened unexpectedly with the coins, for example. Flying across the ground for some reason, as well as your jumps being typed to freely move around in the air. Throughout the game, you will find 3 new power-ups that can be found in secret levels in the castle. They come in different caps. The first you'll find is the famous wind cap. This allows you to fly literally anywhere to collect floating coins and red coins. The next one is the metal cap. This allows you to turn into Metal Mario, gaining the ability to travel underwater to collect hidden stars. And finally there's the vanish cap. The final transformation makes you invisible for a short while, going through different walls. If I had to pick my favorite, I'll go with Metal Mario. I think it's the best power up and the theme when using it goes hard. Just like with stars, coins are also secondary collectibles in this game. Collecting 100 coins in each level results in an extra star. This is a good excuse to collect every single star in this game, especially since they are all scattered in appropriate lengths. Most coins are collected in blue coins, which can be activated by ground pounding various switches. It's definitely not foreshadowing a later entry where these are used. No. With these stars, there are a total of 120 in this game. Collecting them all will gain access to the roof of the castle by cannon, where you'll meet Yoshi. Why he's here, I do not know. Apparently he was planned to be playable or somewhat rideable during Mario 64's development, but it got scrapped along with Luigi being playable, which is a shame. However, this would be an excuse for Yoshi to appear in future installments. The final thing I want to talk about in this game is the hub world, which is Peach's Castle. This is probably my personal favourite hub world in the entire 3D Mario saga. There's something so satisfying about unlocking all these areas after gaining the keys for defeating Bowser. Most levels are locked in different rooms, which are needed to collect a number of stars to open up. I find this a nice decision, as having too many options at the start can lead to being overwhelmed personally. Once you have enough stars to open the final door, you can head on to Bowser in the sky for one more showdown, thus defeating him in a satisfying blow and saving Peach. Bye-bye. Mario said bye-bye instead of so long gay Bowser. It's so over. And that's all of Mario 64. It was sort of refreshing to review this game in the modern day, but regardless, I had fun making this video. This video was supposed to release like a month before, but I got busy, so I just left it for a while. but managed to finally make it after so long. If this does well, I'll make a sequel tackling Super Mario Sunshine in the future. I know people love that game. But yeah, if you found this video enjoyable, make sure to give it a like and subscribe, maybe if you want to, and I'll see you all later.